with regards to this strangely titled movie from 1994. It was filmed in 1993. Yeah, Love and 45. So yeah, they did say it's a supposed to be a yeah comedic, somewhat comedic crime thriller sort of thing. Now this is the problem. With like I like movies that have different genres, but sometimes the ratio of each genre isn't quite right. And it began swell, I suppose, if one could say, but then didn't quite retain the comedy in particular. I mean, it's mostly the beginning that was funny, I suppose one could say. I mean, funnier than most such beginnings. Certainly funnier than this other um I mean, it begins sort of like King's did, which I watched recently and commented on, but it doesn't quite at all continue on. Like it doesn't at all. Like that's the first, yeah. So that little bit I appreciated, but then I don't think it lived up to its potential, to the promise of what it was at the beginning. As much as I like Cochrane's zany character. I mean, I've watched that guy. I haven't watched him in many movies, but As Kind of Darkly is one of my favorites, and he was there, albeit in in rotoscope form. He was there. I mean, I could remember his acting clearly, and in fact, he did somewhat. It's like he typecast some sort of jittery sort of acting. But in this one, he's much more violent, much more. In As Kind of Darkly, he's pretty harmless. So I prefer him there. This is the problem with this movie, I think. As much as it tries a bit to be somewhat comedic, it's not really mostly. I mean, nothing's comedic about using, the tattooing tool to just make a head even bloodier than it is. It's disgusting. This is the problem with many of these. I mean, there is a balance, there's a fine balance, but when it comes to action comedy generally, so it can be done. I mean, I like action comedy, but I much more preferred the likes of Last Action Hero. I mean, that was much more meta, obviously, it's a different sort of comedy, but in terms of action comedies, that was definitely better. It didn't have even half as much violence. Violence by its own, if it was by its own. I mean, this did try to tell a story, but it's not quite a, doesn't the story isn't so interesting that I just think, oh yeah, the violence is totally justifiable. And one recognizes that it tries to be stylish. There's music and shit, but it's too violent. I mean, Goodfellas tries to be musical, but music songs just do not overcome all the insane violence. Now, Goodfellas doesn't even try to be comedic, so there's that. I've no idea what people saw in that movie, but so yeah, this one tries just a bit, but it doesn't quite. I mean, it's like it has like in total like 5% maybe comedy, so it doesn't quite deserve the comedy genre in the sense. The first 10 minutes though, brilliant. If only they continued like that, but no, unfortunately they just they were way too much. Yeah, just for a movie that's supposed to be partial comedy, just too much killing, just too much, and the most grotesque manners as well. That's the most bizarre. I don't know. I don't. Some people must think, oh, yeah, forking a person in the neck is totally funny. You know what? Though it's not. Unless somehow I don't know. It's just not. I mean, I know comedy is subjective, but I don't know in what world. I don't know. Okay. And yeah, so and that's yeah. I mean, yeah, sure enough, someone died by swearing at someone. Just bloody yeah, sure. Just the fact that he swore and then the other guy and ended up crying and saying, "Why did you tell me that?" It's kind of funny, but it's very, very dark humor. You know, it doesn't quite overcome all the, compensate for all the blood, all the squishing and squishing. Yeah, it just doesn't. And as much as they try to make it seem like it's some great relationship that two protagonists had, I don't know, didn't quite convince that much. I mean, I was seriously just expecting her to betray him or him to betray her at any time, but somehow they didn't. I don't know, but other than um, other than s- you know being intimate physically, they didn't quite do much else. And this despite her being annoyed with him, socializing with the crazy guy. Yeah, she didn't do much about it. So it's not like there were any repercussions. I mean, it doesn't seem like there were. Yeah, she seemed immature throughout. So I just have no idea how the relationship survives like that when and also the fact that somehow they avoided all the. I mean, either cops were really incompetent, just really, really, it's unbelievable. But yeah. So as much as I like action comedies, I do. I mean, I like sort of Jackie Chan ones and such, but they're quite different, and they don't even have as much bloodletting. So in this sense, the ratio of comedy to gruesomeness, I guess one could say. But this movie really tried to be gruesome. That's what it tried to be. Nothing but, and they seem to think that there's an inherent comedy in that. It seems, but I'm not entirely sure where that is. You know, I don't think it's there somewhere. Yeah, there are some people seem to think that it doesn't seem to me, that there is any sort of. On the other hand, holding up a convenience store like he did in the first 10 minutes um, was pretty comedic. It would have been great if it continued. As he said himself, there's no one being harmed, the chair trap, but then somehow the director just wanted to harm people. Not only did he harm some people, he harmed loads. I don't know. It just sort of wanted to be either a somewhat comedic movie, but also a somehow. I mean, it wasn't like realistic in the sense of it was still sort of cartoonish. So in a way, it just couldn't decide what it wanted to be really between somewhat comedic, really darkly comedic movie or a crime thriller sort of thing, like Blood Simple or such. It really didn't know what to be. So yeah, ultimately, I do. If it was this sort of thing, I'd rather have a Cohen film, though, if anything. I mean, they tend to be darkly comic as well, somewhat violent, some at least. But I don't know, they seem to be more sensible. This, on the other hand, was just over the top for no reason, really. So I didn't really like it for this, really. But the first 10 minutes, brilliant. Yeah.